Good morning, everyone. It's been, or it is, a pleasure to be moderating this panel. We are aware of the global demands on agriculture. We have to continue increasing our production, not only in quantity but also in quality, for a world that is demanding more food because income is increasing. We have to be very careful with our resources because the arable land is scarce. We have to transform ourselves and we have to stop using fossil fuels and resort to renewable energies and bioenergies. Everything forces us to adapt ourselves to climate change and build resilience. It is a great challenge. We believe we are in a good position because we have started many years ago, not only in Argentina, but in South America, to walk this path that we are so convinced of. And this year, when APRESID celebrates its 30th anniversary, the vision of the pioneers, of the founders, is so important because they set the road towards what the world is currently demanding us. We are convinced that based on science, we can walk the correct path to reach the proper responses. That's why we think this is a luxury panel, very much to the point and very much concerned about the topic. The director of ICA, I am really proud to have you here, and very proud because you hold that position and you are an Argentinian. This is a body that interacts with the ministries of agriculture of 34 different states. It's a privilege for all the countries in the American continent to have you in that position. Thank you, Manuel. Well, we have a mandate to protect the environment, so we are honored to have the Secretary of the Environment and Sustainable Development of our national government, Sergio. Thank you. Mary Booth. She's speaking English. Mary is the CEO of Global Farmers Network. She completes an outstanding job because she makes certain that the voice of farmer is heard in the global agenda. Many times the political decisions are made by policymakers and farmers are not heard. Mary and the global farmers work to have the farmer's voice be heard. And well, we produce food. And that's why we are convinced that sustainability will be attained if we protect the environment and we have a responsible production. They should work together. Our main goal is to have our foods of premium quality, nutritious and safe and secure. So it is also a privilege to have CEPEA head here in our panel, Sergio Britos, because he will explain the road we have to walk to be sustainable and responsible. Now, Manuel, you first. What is ICA's proposal? What is your planning? Because we know it is very much to the point of what we've been discussing. Good morning. Thank you very much to the organizers, to Pilo for the opportunity. Of course, I took the position of General Director of ICA about 20 months ago. I am convinced that international bodies, especially ICA, should be reformed, restructured to adapt to the new context, and I'm working towards that aim. Ica was born 37 years ago, always thinking how to improve quality of life in farming or rural areas in the Americas. We are a continental organization. That's why it is the natural forum of the 34 ministers of the continent who define a global agenda when we have to defend America's farming as the guarantor of food safety and security. That is what people expect of us, and that is what we should do. I always joke that I'm the best general director Argentina has because I'm the only one. And that points out the history of Argentina. Argentina was isolated from the world. Now we have opened up to the world, and we need more and more people holding position in international bodies. Let me talk about the international context. There's a crisis, a multilateralism crisis. World governance it's been run by an automatic pilot, and we have to change that. Because Pilu mentioned that climate change is number one priority. We have a global agenda, we have the ODS, we have the the Paris Agreement. So the first message is to defend multilateralism. We have to support it as much as possible, and at the same time we should defend our own farming systems. In order to do that, we need our own metrics, our own research, and we have to be strong, firm, and sound in defending those farming systems. It's a paradox because multilateralism, I've just told you, it's in crisis. And climate change, which is the largest market failure created by human beings, require collaboration from all the countries. Climate change is a fact that affects everything, makes any social issue more serious. That's very clear in agriculture. Reduced productivity of our crops, basically in tropical areas. In temperate areas, not so much, but in tropical areas, it's visible. The production maps, the traditional ones, are cracking. Some countries know that in 20 or 30 years' time, the traditional crops they have will disappear. Diseases and pests are changing constantly, so much so that health bodies need health intelligence and prospective planning because they have to continuously be reassessing the new diseases or the old ones that had disappeared but are returning. And then we have another problem, migrations. From 2000 to 2015, we have had 8 million climate migrants. I live in Costa Rica. There's a very small part of the dry corridor in Central America in Costa Rica. There's a lot of exclusion, poverty, and millions of people are moving away from those rural areas and end up in large cities. Agriculture, as any other productive activity, is of course connected to climate change. But it is part of the solution. So when we have to strongly defend our farming system, is because we are certain a good agriculture, good agricultural practices, carbon balance is important. We have to fight. We don't have to buy what some researchers say. So the message I want to give you is that we have to stop being defensive and start being offensive. In international forum, we have to defend the consistency of our production systems, basically those with good agricultural practices. Let me also tell you that climate change needs more efficiency per production unit. That means more technology understand eco-intensification or sustainable intensification. When we talk about the 10 technologies with zero emission, 5 come from agriculture. For instance, carbon sequestration, APRESID knows about it very well, bioenergies, forestation. So a well-managed agriculture can contribute a lot to stop climate change. Economic growth and climatic action, instead of being a threat, have to be two hands working together towards a positive synergy. I think we are looking at a great opportunity. We have to stop running behind things, always thinking how to adapt, how to react, sometimes too late. But we have to hold the flag of sustainable development very strongly, produce a resilient agriculture, replace carbon in our soils, because I think that's a big solution. Let me give you a fourth message, bioeconomy, which is linked to circular economy. I think it's a breath of fresh air that takes us away from that linear model of conventional agriculture. And we see agriculture as a multidimensional thing. That is what ICA supports strongly. Bioeconomy allows us to take or to profit from the resources of biodiversity. Eco-intensification supports all uses of biotechnology, includes ecosystem services, talks about more efficiency in value chain, and takes biomass and allows us to go into value chains that didn't exist before. So as General Director of ICA, let me tell you that ICA is working very hard in bioeconomy. Next year in Córdoba, there will be a world event where all researchers on bioeconomy will meet in Córdoba, because Argentina is a leader in this issue. And it is a flag we have to hold strongly, because we have a lot of expectations there. And I am convinced that it will let the country and our agriculture be positioned in a better place. Now, what is agriculture in our continent? What is its positioning? When you look at agriculture from an aggregate vision, we have 15% of market share in global markets. Our agriculture creates 14% of global jobs. It is a resilient agriculture. In 2017, for instance, while the global economy grew 1.7%, agriculture grew 7%, as well as exports. The situation is promising, but when we look more in detail, in our continent there are two poles of agriculture that grow very strongly: North Canada, the United States, and then Mercosur. And we should not forget the niche agriculture in Chile or Peru. The point is, what happens in between those two growth poles? And that is a sleeping giant, agriculture in the tropics. When you compare yields in that agriculture, you will see yields way below yields in the two poles. We have to wake up that sleeping giant, and I think that the innovation, the creativity of our people in Mercosur, we can do a lot for agriculture in the tropics. The world, of course, sees us as what we are, an agriculture that basically export food, and in order to guarantee food safety and security, we have to understand that this is the time of the continent agriculture, and it's an opportunity we should not leave aside.
Gracias, Manuel. Y hacías mucho foco.
Thank you very much. you focused on working in the global forums and to be there sound and solid. Sergio, you lead the climate change cabinet in the national government. We think this is very natural, but I believe it's quite unique globally. So maybe we can start by mentioning something about it.
Thank you for the invitation. I congratulate Apelcid on the summons and calling so many people on. What we are talking about has to do with the prompt of this meeting, of this forum, of the 30th anniversary of this technological innovation, a new way of farming, of planting, and leave behind a shameful attitude and start with a proactive attitude, trying to improve things substantially, so that the international global forum don't put the guilt on us on numbers that have nothing to do with facts. Argentina has a prestigious technical and scientific background, so we are able to provide rigorous, to account for rigorous numbers and facts. Which one is better? I think that this is better. Okay, I go on with this one. I've just seen this in the video, this idea of how mankind and agriculture are interrelated with the concept of progress, and how the restrictions that we have now shouldn't be a barrier, but instead the possibility to leap beyond. 2 years ago, I've been here. Mauricio asked us to work as a team in the area of sustainable development and environment, but not only working as the activity of a minister or a ministry, but rather not work only with a green agenda, but working with a responsible agenda. The idea is to make a synthesis, so this kind of activity is an economic model that becomes a global commitment. The profitability should include sustainability, which is only possible with knowledge, investment, and technological investment. Therefore, this idea is not a restrictive one, it's rather an opportunity. We need to value the new practices that allows us to achieve traceability. I want to summarize this quickly. PILU, the National Cabinet of Climate Change, we don't only coordinate this, but we ask Mauricio to chair this cabinet. There's no possibility to do things if there's no top political decision, and this heads should talk with the focal points on the different topics. We are not looking for a green solution. It's very difficult to change paradigms. Changes in culture is difficult, and also cross-sectional or across-the-board thoughts, it's something difficult. Regarding sustainable development, the starting point is UN, United Nations. United Nations has showed that they like to meet, but they never come to an agreement. They don't reach a consensus. These are parallel lines that never converge together. Once a year they report in New York, and we go to different conventions and meetings in in each of them. We have the Conference of the Parties, the COP. This is the number 13 that has to do with climate. But the climate change is not the problem itself. It's only an indication of the problem. If somebody has a fever and discuss all the time about the thermometers, yes, I know I have a fever, but you have to, or I have a temperature, but you need to solve the problem for that. The climate change is an indicator only, and this gives us the opportunity of having a global discussion. APRESID has also been the space where the circular idea of the comprehensive thought has also been the core of this. If we have a comprehensive discussion, everything will converge together, everything will be holistic. With this circular culture, all the inputs won't be opposing inputs, but they will be part of a common agenda. We always come together. I've always come, for instance, with Luis Miguel Echever. We go together everywhere. I have to advocate for a sustainable livestock production of fisheries and farming activities, and he comes together with me and he advocates for sustainability. We talk about the same thing, but we need to change the bias of people who talk, so we have a jurisdiction and cross-disciplinary achievement, especially in a federal country. That cultural change will take time, there's no doubt about this. But I remember that APRESID and the farming sector, we started with resolution 125, and now we are in the we are already state of the art. We are at the front line. We are looking for competitiveness, and we have succeeding in opening markets that and not only as Argentina, but also as Latin America. We are going to discuss about this in the COP conference in Chile. We are the CO2 stock place. We can provide sustainable production, and we also have the equity principle. The justice principle in this global agenda should say, if we measure global warming taking into account, or says the Industrial Revolution, and now the challenge is to reduce it, I think that we should consider in countries all the global warming they have contributed since the Industrial Revolution. And they should pay the green funds that we need to do things that are sustainable, that are environmentally friendly. And we shouldn't lose time in asking where are the international funds for the agreements that have already been undersigned. We are ambitious. We have 4 mitigation plans, and we have a national adaptation plan. But we will meet our commitments. But we need also international funding for that. Argentina says that apart from mitigation, we need to have adaptation, because if we don't have a resilient infrastructure, the most vulnerable people are the ones that will be the losers here. How do we summarize sustainability and profitability in the production system? I am persuaded that this comes together with technological innovation. That's why we talk about certified agricultural production. We believe that without certification we make dangerous generalizations and we put together everybody in the same bag. We decided to pass a joint resolution between the different secretariats and ministries, the environmental office, agro-industrial office or department, and environment department. We were able to reach a consensus on a resolution of the regarding inventory of good practices, because if we don't have good practices, we don't have certification standards, and so we can't provide any accounting, and we won't be able to maintain the activity. We know that there are many farmers that don't want to be judged in advance without providing their certification. This will be a non-tariff barrier in the future, so we need to step forward in order to be competitive in the future. These will be non-tariff standards. This is something that we do for competitiveness sake. So traceability and sustainability are inputs. It's not something that is imposed on us. We have to be proud of doing this work for us, for our own benefits. Today, this might be a challenge or a restriction, but we must think that in the future this will be an advantage, a competitive advantage. Argentina has its own production driving force in the farming sector. We have a very good strategic resource, and this won't only give us food, but also will help us fight against climate change or mitigate climate change. We need to enter into collaboration. That's why we need to focus on working together, working on common grounds. We need a circular governance, and this is solved not only with science knowledge, but also being aware of a proactive and integrating leadership that places not only Argentina in a good place in the world, but also change our awareness. We are already global citizens. We have our own local responsibility, but we project onto the global arena.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Mary, to this passionate discussion and global discussions, we also have the problem that we don't have the voice of farmers. I think that you are an icon in reverting all these discussions. We would like to know what your vision is from the point of view of the Global Farmers Network.
Very much for inviting me here, and on behalf of the 180 farmers who represent 60 different countries, 6 continents, I want to say congratulations to Proceed. The name Global Farmer Network is very important because each word means something. We are global, we are all farmers, and we are networked. We are connected together to tell their stories. They speak with one voice. We bring the farmer's voice, their perspective, and their experience into the center of the global dialogue. Our mission is very simple. The Global Farmer Network amplifies the farmer's voice in promoting trade, technology, sustainable farming, economic growth, and food security. You'll recognize this person. Why the Global Farmer Network? As farmers who are responsible for food and environmental security, your voice must be part of the global discussion. Farmers bring great credibility, authority, and they bring a perspective that provides important information that can and it does influence public perceptions and policy. There's many ways to amplify a farmer's voice, and one of them is in publishing op-eds, opinion pieces that are written and authored by farmers based on their very important stories. It provides not only credibility, but it provides visibility as well. The Global Farmer Networks also supply, there we go, I know. They share expertise with farmers. Mr. Ramirez, farmers can export ideas. What a wonderful and easy solution. He and many of you in this room, I know from firsthand experience as APRISEED partners with the African Development Bank to share no-till technology and strategies, farmer to farmer. The Global Farmer Network supports this effort by providing Edgard and others a communications platform, an opportunity to tell your story, not only to a global audience to support what you're doing, but to perhaps incite somebody else to do the same thing and share what they do. There are many farmers in the world who use very important technologies and strategies, and they have expertise that they can share with other farmers who are dealing with similar challenges. This is Craig McKenzie. He farms in New Zealand. He has great precision agriculture work, specifically in water use. And for many people who are concerned about how a farmer uses water, using a story like Craig's to talk about how water is supplied strategically as an investment in crop production helps to allay fears, it impacts policy decisions, and it provides testimony that these tools are a part of the solution. The farmers of the Global Farmer Network partner with businesses, with organizations like APRISEED and others in defense of science and innovative technologies. This is Gina Gutierrez, a fifth-generation Mexican dairy farmer. She loves to tell the story behind a glass of milk. There is no one better or more credible to bust the myths about food production than a farmer. For Gina, this is talking about the technologies that she's using to monitor the health of their cows. These tools are helping them produce healthy and nutritious food and allowing them to sustainably meet the goals of feeding a growing population. Rumiso Mashumba is from Zimbabwe. This is a country where the average farmer is a 60-year-old man who's farming because that's what his family did. Rumiso chose agriculture as a career in her mid-20s, and her first technology purchase was a tractor. She views herself as an ambassador of change. I can testify that her vision and her work that she's doing to empower women is impacting women across Zimbabwe and all of Africa. Technology, in her words, is more about helping farmers. It's about helping ordinary people lead better lives. And she does this on the global stage through the Global Farmer Network. At this point, she's working at CRISPR-Con, which was held in Boston, Massachusetts, and she was sharing her perspective as an African farmer on the challenges that she has, not only from climate, but from pests and disease, and shared what are the tools that they need to deal with these challenges in a sustainable manner, sustainable environmentally, sustainable politically, and sustainable socially. Ravichandran, we call him Ravi. He grows cotton, rice, pulses, vegetables in Tamil Nadu in southern India. Ravi has opened up his farm to new technologies and shared the results with his fellow farmers. From BT cotton to drip irrigation for sustainable rice production, he sees the value of technology and the importance of sharing what we learn. Agriculture technology, in his words, is a growing science. We may come from different lands, but as farmers, we can exchange ideas to pursue a common goal of better farming through smarter water use. Every day, you will find a Global Farmer Network member somewhere telling their story. This picture was taken in 2018. Ravi was in Kenya. He was invited to share his story in BT cotton production for the Kenyan Biosafety National Council. They were meeting to determine whether Kenya would, again, at some point, allow this innovative technology to be used in farm production. Also in that room and taking the picture is Gilbert Boer, a Kenyan farmer, another member of the Global Farmer Network. What we saw here was farmer to farmer, but also how a farmer's story can impact policy decisions, not only in your own country, but in other countries as well. Kenya is an emerging market nation, And that actually, after Ravi's testimony, they have now again installed and are willing to import GM crops, which they had put a ban on. And it is the power of a farmer's story that will make that difference. I want to congratulate and thank Amperseed on your 30th anniversary. You have created an innovation and talked about it that continues to help farmers meet the challenges of a changing climate as we protect our environment and provide food, feed, and fuel to meet a growing global demand. The vision of the past is providing a pathway of opportunity and impact for future generations. I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to tell the Global Farmer Network story and to tell you that we are here to partner with you in many more different ways. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Mary. Un lujo.
It is it is a great thing to have you here and hear about your global activities. I would like to take this opportunity to share a video. We are so convinced that we are ready to face the demands, not only in our country, but also in the rest of the world, that we are working in Africa, an icon of the demand. Martin Freguenet, the head of agriculture of the African Bank of Development, was not able to arrive in Argentina, but we will have their message by Fernando Di Leo, an Argentinian who works in the bank. Hello. From the African Bank of Development here in Abidjan in the Côte d'Ivoire. I would like to thank on behalf of the Director of the Agriculture Department, Dr. Freguenet, the invitation to be part of APRESED. It's an honor to be connected with Rosario in such a significant day. Unfortunately, Martin is in a delegation with the President. Our relationship with APRESED is very important, specifically with the spirit of this conference and with its motto. Why? Well, let's begin by mentioning the context of food producing system in the continent, which is at a transition moment. In Africa, we have two very significant facts. We have increased population, accelerated migration from rural to urban areas, and these two things impact on food demand. New foods are required and in larger quantities, such as what happened in Latin America and then in Asia. Economic prosperity impact on food demand. Different studies show that diets are changing from rich in carbohydrates to a larger demand of proteins. The global change of protein demand will happen in Africa. The protein revolution is also happening in Africa. So national production systems are not coping with the demand. The food production increases at different rate than consumption increases. We see companies emerging in different parts of the country, integrated production, producing poultry, pig, porks, etc. But competitiveness and of this sector is facing big challenges. The bank's strategy in the African savannas is inspiring two big ag revolutions. First, the cerrados in Brazil that show us that tropical agriculture is possible, that you can produce soy and maize in those environments. And then the bank focuses on the sustainable use of soils, the no-till revolution that started in Argentina. Food production to cope with global demand will have significant consequences in African system, basically on land use. When we think about food demand in 2050, we can see that there will be a big demand for meat. Global production in next years will increase by 90%. So Balanced food links meat consumption with land use. The way of solving the supply to the market will be crucial. Why do we believe this? Well, because we base ourselves in different studies. Unless we change our current production system, the global demand of animal products will require 400 million hectares more. 75 million will be to produce grain and 300 million for pasture. So this is a deforestation rate of 4.5 million hectares per year. The expansion will happen in Africa mainly. On the other hand, estimates show that in Africa, 157 million people live in degraded land, and that will increase by 45 million. So we need more agricultural products production. So we need intensification. That is the right solution for a more sustainable production, minimizing the impact on the environment and replacing nutrients to the soil. We need to increase production per hectare to have an alternative for land expansion to avoid land degradation and soil exhaustion. We also need to transform the sector. Grain-producing areas in South America that have adopted no-till in the midterm are more efficient. So new agricultural practices, new dynamics based on bioeconomics are required to sustain the future. So APRESID and Argentine companies are helping us introduce no-till in Africa. In Ghana, in New Guinea, make us understand that adopting a technological package should consider all the complexity, including social complexities, because the land has been very much degraded. Just to end, let me tell you that this continent is living a very significant paradigm change, very sensitive to sustainability, and the margin of error is very thin. In the African savannas, we are trying to solve the equation of economic, social, and environmental sustainability, and that is the frontier we are walking along together, the African Bank of Development and APRESID. So thank you very much.
Bueno, Sergio,
Okay, Sergio. We will make a big mistake if we think that we only have to think of foods, quality and quantity of foods to supply the demand in this cruel reality. But all the farmers around the world need to be confident that our sustainable production matches a balanced diet, a healthy diet. So let us hear your opinion. Good morning. Let me thank APRESID and Pilu especially for the invitation to come here for the first time to this conference. I am a nutritionist. That's my academic training. That doesn't apply to human nutrition. But for some years now with Fernando Vilela, Ricardo Jara, and Pilu, when we were at Nutrition 10, Hunger Zero, I feel close to agriculture. My vision is based on nutrition. When I hear statements or concepts saying that Argentina and Mercosur are clear exporters of food and guarantors of food safety and security globally, I think whether we can convert our countries into a healthy platform of nutrition. There are many paradigm changes, and there have been many others in past times linked to agriculture and nutrition and to environmental sustainability. In nutrition, we are seeing paradigm changes. Little time ago, only a month ago, FAO published its annual report on food safety and security. The 2019 edition includes estimates showing how problems evolve in the world and in different regions. Globally, malnutrition, the number of people that suffer malnutrition, is not growing. That number is stable, and it is related to a large number of people. 820 million people in the world suffering malnutrition. 42 million out of them live in Latin America, in our region. But the paradigm change in nutrition that started 15, 20 years ago, it's something that never happened before. Overweight people outnumber people suffering malnutrition. And this is a huge challenge. We have to think over public policies to face the challenge, continue reducing hunger and malnutrition, but at the same time face this new problem that is growing at a steady pace. Many people think of overweight epidemic because it is true, it is a concept, it is real. Worldwide, 2,400 million people are overweight. 400 million are obese, and the rest are overweight, which is the first step to reach the pathology of obesity. Obesity is the mother and the father, or both things together, of a number of chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, heart issues, and they are responsible for a large number of deaths around the world. Obesity and overweight is such a problem that nobody in nutrition, in research, or in teaching is talking about reducing obesity in the world. We want to stop the epidemic. We want to stop the steady pace of its growth. In Argentina, in past years, we have come to have good statistics, good studies. Last year alone, we had the National Survey on Health and Nutrition. Results will be available by the end of this year or early next year. And there are different records, official records, government records, the ministry, or other studies conducted by NGOs or private entities report a big problem in Argentina. Children obesity. If we take children under 6, 8% approximately of prevalence of problems linked to malnutrition, children with low weight in terms of their age, short, but obesity is not 8%, it's 31% of children under 6 are obese. This is a terrible concern. We are very much concerned of how early obesity is developing, and this is a paradigm change. When we talk to pediatricians today, it's very common to find pathologies that were not part of pediatrics every day. Children with diabetes, with hypertension, pediatricians are seeing that in their offices on a daily basis, and this is growing. This is growing very quickly in the least developed sectors of the population. We also have school data, 2 of them, one from 2007, the other from 2014, that show obesity in primary school grew from 29 to 35%, 1% per year. among adults, national surveys on risk factor 2009, 13, and 15 show a trend along 13 years, 1% per year in the prevalence of overweight in adults. Today, 62% of adults in Argentina are overweight. When you add up all this information, it means that 23, 24 million of Argentines have some problem linked to overweight. That is half our population. Half of us are sick of the same sickness. And this should really show us the challenge in terms of diet. In Argentina, the problem is not hunger, not because we lack food. What we lack is a healthy, a quality diet. This is something we are studying. Other researchers group are studying the same thing. We have huge gaps that we have to bridge. We have to improve 7, 8 categories of foods. Nutrition can show us that those categories associate with a healthy diet: vegetables, fruits, legumes, brown cereals, yogurt, fish, fresh meat, or fat acid, omega-3 sources. That is what we need. That is what we recommend, what many nutrition guidelines suggest. We have to reduce sugar, sweet beverages, very refined foods, processed meat, and foods high in sodium content. Those are negative things in our diet. We are about, next Thursday, we're going to be sharing the results and a study that we've made that assesses the quality of our diet. We have found that 60% of Argentine people after 3 years old has a low quality diet associated to the gaps I have just mentioned, deficit in those 7 or 8 products that should be consumed, and excess in other foods that should be avoided. I think this is our greatest challenge. We are resorting to 3, 4 guidelines on public policies that we are suggesting, that we are discussing different panels in order to make Argentina not only guarantor of food safety and security, but also into a platform of healthy diet for our population and also for those that buy our foods. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Your view is very interesting. I cannot avoid thinking that Argentina is also part of this global fact, which is 30% of waste of food, which this happens with the same environmental cost of food which is consumed. For the sake of time and to take advantage of each of you, I think that we have the privilege of this IFA positioning with the 54 member states, and they need to interact with the private sector. Sergio clearly says that in order to have an impact in the face of climate change, we need to work in an orderly manner. Mary shows us the hard work of farmers spreading their experience all over the world. And Sergio says that we have enough production, but the way we eat, our eating habits are of low quality food. I would like each of you to provide a 2-minute summary of what is your view to continue strengthening this work together. I think that our sector for many years have been subject to a crack. The crack city farming sector, chemical agriculture, organic agriculture, tensions between family agriculture and entrepreneurial agriculture. I think that we have to build bridges. Also, almost the divorce between agriculture and nutrition. What's coming is a smart use of agriculture. I refer to smart from the climate point of view, from the nutrition point of view. It's impossible, or so we can't accept that the agriculture ministry does not discuss or have conversations with the health ministry. Farmers are the architects of their own fate. They take care of the soil. They take care of bio safety. They are in remote areas. So we have to take care of that capital. There are some contradictions to be overcome. Somebody says that agriculture 4.0 cannot live together with a 0.4 infrastructure. Roads in the farming in the rural areas have to be improved. I mean, if we aim to be state of the art, we cannot be working with infrastructure that is as old as the 19th century. We need to include all these topics in an agenda in order to position the agriculture in our continent in this historical opportunity. I would summarize this as follows. I think that the sustainable development paradigm has to change its indicators and metrics. We need to refer to the metrics of development. I would summarize this as follows. Countries shouldn't be ranked by GDP because this ranking means taking into account a linear economy, the income per capita. This is a capitalist mechanism that it's only looking at the balance accounting, considering profit. We should have a mixed index with 3 components. Countries should be ranked by GDP, economic sustainability in the activities, the model of a capitalism which is regulated and compensated. This would help the world into progress. Also, what we call per capita emissions. I'm talking about all the indicator pools that have to do with an environment and sustainability, the carbon footprint, the water footprint. Countries should be responsible for balancing the turnover or the per capita income and what you are using from the natural limited resources and how can you manage them in a sustainable manner. So this income in the economic balance is related to the use of those resources. And the third indicator would be social integration, training for new jobs, quality of life, technological innovation, jobs, etc. So we should see a third impact here, how much we do produce and how much money we receive in turn, and how much do we help to contribute to a better quality of life. If we consider all these indicators, I assure you that countries that are ranked in the first top 10 because of the GDP will no longer be ranked as top 10 countries. We need trade balances to grow. Argentina can grow further if we export, if we generate foreign money or exchange, and stop discussing whether we will save ourselves on our own and be isolated from the world, or we will join the rest of the world and solve our environmental problems with better criteria, that is to say, to be certified, to account for what we do and be responsible and account for not only for what we do for our own, on our own sake, but for the common well-being. The future is not what's coming next, but what we start to do today. This is not a technical topic. This is an ethical problem. We need the technical input to solve an agenda which has to do with human rights, dignity of people, social justice or fairness. We are responsible not only to produce and to be competitive, but also we need to consider the solidarity factor so that we leave our children a better world.
I want to thank Pilu and Opera Seed for bringing together this group of people, because I think it is the source of the pathway forward, which is multitudes of experiences, a diversity of experiences and people and geographies and what we do, but we are collaborating together because we have a common challenge. And that's to feed a growing population and to do it in a manner that is sustainable. And sustainable is used so freely, sometimes it's almost confusing. What does sustainability mean? And for many people, it means different things. But I think where we're talking today is sustaining environmentally, using smart agriculture, working as partners to preserve the soil, to use the natural resources that we have in a way that makes sense, a way that is productive and protects our land. We have to be sustainable socially. We come from different lands with different ideas and different prisms of interest and understanding. But there are still certain things that are common to every one of us in this room, all across Argentina, but across the world as well. We want to feed our families nutritious food. We want to give them an education. We want to protect our homes. We want to see our children have a better life. And when we find the commonalities first, all these other challenges, nutrition comes from really good access to technology, getting food and feed from areas of plenty to areas of scarcity, to balance out the overweightness and the obesity and those who are still malnourished in this world, to use climate smart agriculture, to talk about what are we balancing, what are we actually measuring, and how do we move forward with that. And I think that the view of the Global Farmer Network, from those first 5 Iowa farmers who started this organization to the people who are there now, and as we continue to grow, it's that every stakeholder needs to be at the table. We need all the collaborators. And in these rooms, Pilu, you said it so well, there are many important discussions going on all around the world. In this room today, in many other rooms, there needs to be a farmer involved in every one of those, not just to share their own story, but to talk about the pieces that you do. Opera Seed understands that you do it so well because you've worked on a technology that was important to you, but now you go and share it. And I think that's what each of us is in this world to do, to do what we do well, to figure out what our mission is, to find others who believe in that, and then to share it forward. And I think that's what collaboration is. I think that's how you feed the world. I think that's how you protect the soil. And I think that's how you talked about our moral and ethical reason. That's where social justice comes from too. A well-fed world is a world that's at peace. And I think that's the bottom line. So I thank you for this opportunity.
Vos preguntabas...
Pilu, you ask us to mention a couple of challenges coming out from this discussion. I don't have much time, but only two things. First, I think that we have a debt in food education or in eating education. When we made up this association, which had a different name, it was together with the agribusiness program that was directed by we put in place a program touring different schools from the farm to table. The idea was to relate nutrition topics with Argentina as a farming country, exporter of food exporter. I think that we have a debt with food or with eating habits in the early childhood and before being adolescents. When you don't learn that in school and in school age, you won't learn that anymore. Argentina has to define policies around food. Serious country when they finish a food guide should start with the next one. The latest guide was published in 2016, and now we have to relate contents related with nutrition and food related to concepts of environment. In Septea, we are only starting to work in a project together with the bioeconomic with the School of Agronomy of the University of Buenos Aires. We need to find robust arguments to provide content to the new food guide. So I invite Presid to make up a working group to produce this. Really, it's being an honor to have you all here. You talked about positive aspects and challenges. We have two global agenda that rule what we do, which is the 2030 agenda from United Nations for Sustainable Development and the Agreement of Paris, or the Paris Agreement. In Presid, I think that we are prepared to go along that pathway. We work on certification. We want to extend certification, and we want this to become a policy of state, of government. I think that we are prepared to take care of traceability. All of you put an emphasis on human dignity and environmental quality. This impact on each of us personally and also working together. Thank you very much.